Here are the top 15 most expensive dimes to sell at auction in 2025. This coin sits at the crossroads in US design history. Struck in 1859, it bridges two eras, pairing the outgoing seated Liberty obverse with the serial reef reverse that would define the dime for decades to come. Lacking even a country name, it feels experimental, almost unfinished in a way. This pattern reveals the mint thinking out loud, testing America's next small silver identity before committing to it fully. Graded as Proof 67 by NGC, it was sold at auction for $33,600. The real-world rarity of the 1927 D Mercury dime has presented a paradox of types for collectors for almost a century now. Genuinely rare in gem grades, but more common than you'd expect in lower circulating grades than its mintage of 4,812,000 coins might at least initially suggest at the same time. This example was sold by Great Collections in September. Graded as MS67 with full bands by PCGS, it secured a price at auction of no less than $34,875. The 1952 Roosevelt dime may not be rare in absolute terms, but in a proof with a deep cameo contrast, it is extremely rare, as the deep cameo contrast indicates that, at least in this case, it was likely one of the first proof coins to come off of the presses early in the year. In October of 2025, we saw a Proof 68 plus deep cameo example, graded by PCGS, selling at auction by Great Collections, making it the finest known example at the service. It sold for an eye-watering $36,000 at auction. 1941 saw one of the highest mintage figures in the Mercury dime series, coming in at just over 175 million coins. And as a result, even in mint state grades, the coin is freely available today. The reason that this coin appears on this list is because it is one of 8 coins listed in the population report that are tied for the finest known for the series. At a grade of MS68+, with full bands from PCGS, this coin appeared at auction in August when it sold for $36,000. This 1854 Liberty-seated dime tells the story of how proof collection really began in the United States. Struck in 1854, well before proof sets were really officially sold. It comes from a murky experimental era when only a handful of true proofs were made. Today, certification confirms just 8 to perhaps 10 genuine examples exist, with this one graded as Proof 65 cameo from PCGS. It sold at auction in Stack's Bauer's August Rarities Night for $36,000. The 1923 S Mercury dime is a classic example of how mintage numbers can be misleading. Though 6,440,000 coins were struck, most were either poorly made or heavily circulated, or both, leaving very few truly well-struck survivors. For decades, collectors underestimated how elusive a full bands gem really was. This coin stands as proof that the 1923 S isn't just rare, it's one of the great conditional and strike challenges of the entire series. And graded as MS66 with full bands, it was sold at auction in June for the sum of $43,200. 1892 was the first year in which the Barber coins were introduced into circulation, including the dime, which saw a rather substantial mintage of 12,120,000 coins in total, a fact that does nothing to diminish this coin's popularity, especially high-grade examples like this one. Graded as MS68 by PCGS, it is at the very top of the population report, and in February, Heritage sold the coin at auction for $43,200. The 1807 draped bust dime is often much maligned for having been poorly made or weakly struck. Even in higher grades, such as this, the reverse especially tends to display weak details. This was due to the reverse die being previously used to strike quarter eagle coins, and mint personnel were aware that the design changes were incoming, so they opted to use existing dies rather than make new ones. Graded as MS65, this example clearly shows the later die state of the reverse, and also managed to sell at auction in November for $46,125. This 1797 dime is a survivor from a mint that was still in the process of inventing itself. In the 1790s, dies were hand engraved, one by one. Often failing meant starting over completely, while a single engraver struggled to keep the presses running. Every coin reflects that pressure and improvisation. This example isn't just an early US silver, it's physical evidence of how fragile and experimental America's first coinage really was. Graded as MS62 Plus by PCGS, it sold at auction for $63,000 in February. This dime captures a mistake frozen in metal, as the mint rushed to create millions of coins in 1942. A single die initially created with a 1941 hub slipped into the next year's batch and was then finished with a 1942 dated hub, creating one of America's most famous overdates. Discovered in 1943, it reveals how human error crept into mass production under extreme pressure, and has since become one of the most popular overdates out there. This stunning example is graded by PCGS as MS65 with full bands and was sold by Heritage in January for $72,000. This coin exists in a gray zone of US minting history, from a time when proofs weren't sold, officially recorded, or even really clearly defined. Struck in 1837, the final year of the capped bust dime, it appears to have been specifically made as a presentation coin, yet survives without official documentation. Today it stands alone, the only certified specimen of the JR2 type, and the closest thing known to a proof issue from this vanished chapter of American coinage. Graded as SP64 by NGC, Stax Bowers sold this coin at auction in August for $72,000. This 1798 over 97 draped bust dime captures the early mint's improvising in real time. Struck from a die first dated as 1797, then hurriedly reworked for 1798. It even reuses a 16-star reverse once meant for a gold quarter eagle. Silver and gold coins sharing tools out of necessity. With statehood politics, recycled tools, and visible human shortcuts, this overdate is a front-row artifact from America's experimental numismatic beginnings. Graded as MS66 by NGC and sold at auction in January for $84,000 by final call. This dime represents how early US mintages can be misleading. Though records claim that 33,040 coins were struck in 1803, it remains highly likely that many were actually dated 1802, making true 1803 dimes far scarcer than originally believed, with a true mint state population that can be counted on perhaps one hand. This example is the finest known. Today, graded as PCGS MS64 when it was offered at auction in Heritage's January fund sale, it sold for $216,000. This coin represents the moment America's monetary system finally became fully realized. First envisioned by Thomas Jefferson as a tenth of a dollar, the dime didn't reach circulation until 1796, 4 years after the mint was officially created, when the young mint proved it could issue a full set of decimal coins for the first time. As a survivor of that first mintage of 22,135 dimes, this coin is graded as MS64 by PCGS and sold in August for $69,000. And then, for the most expensive dime sold at auction in 2025, it is only fitting that it is also one of the best-known dimes ever minted, the infamous 1894S Barber dime, a coin that was destined for greatness, but created as an unintentional rarity when an apparent bookkeeping fluke necessitated the creation of just 24 dimes for the year. The mint fully expected that more dimes would be minted later on in the year, but thanks to the economic panic of 1893, that order never came. Today, only 9 of those original 24 pieces can be confirmed to still exist. So when this coin appeared at auction in January, it turned heads and raised bids all the way up to a closing price at auction of $2,160,000. Subscribe to WNN and feel free to watch the top most expensive nickels sold in 2025 next, right here. For the World Numismatic News, I am Numisman saying thank you for watching, keep collecting, and have a fantastic day.